Yeah, we could probably do that.
Good morning, and we'll call to order the meeting of the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada. Mr. Snow.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. The agenda is in order. However, we would like to take items 29 and 30 directly after the consent agenda, please.
Very good. Entertain a motion. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your next item is to receive the General Manager's report, and there is no General Manager's report today. And so we can, unless the Commission has any questions or comments about why there is no General Manager's report today, we can go right to your consent agenda, which is made up of items 4 through 23.
Do I need to open up the public hearing first on number 3?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would like to ask anyone in the audience wishing to speak on an agenda item posted today. They can either fill out a comment card, and if we haven't received any comment cards, but just to make sure
I believe we have one,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Very good. And those that do wish to speak, please fill out a card. They're available. The first speaker will be Jeff Rasky.
Hey, Jacob, how you doing? Commissioners, how are you? Jeff Rask, ATU 1637. We are the union for the bus drivers. I don't know if this concerns any of the agenda items, but we'd like to raise our concern regarding safety for the operators and the passengers as well in terms of the scheduling of the system itself. Staff will give to the company the strings of times, which would include layover times at each end of the particular run that is done. And we have found over the last couple of years that the amount of time for layover has diminished considerably, and we believe that this presents itself as a concern for safety for our operators to recover and recoup from the stresses of driving, as well as for the passengers who could be affected by the operation of the system by the operators. Nevada statutes requires a 30-minute break and 30-minute lunch break and 2 15-minute breaks during the day. However, we can enter into an agreement with the company itself, which we have in this instance, to avoid doing that. The company has a problem in regards to being able to give the breaks on a consistent basis, and we believe that if staff would incorporate maybe a 20-minute break every third run or something along that lines, and I could probably get with Jacob on that and we could discuss it some, but we believe that that would be helpful in alleviating the concern that we have regarding the safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Anderson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Like I said, a frequent rider, I have been very concerned for a long time for the drivers and what have you is concerned. You have great drivers, and they definitely need their payback. They need their $10, their lunch. I mean, I can't take a lunch hour and stand a lot of time trying to keep on schedule, but they need their money back. That's like $265 that they're taking out of their paycheck. So I think they really need that back, and they also need to have the respect. A lot of these people, they come on the bus, they're disrespectful. The bus pass has expired, and they say it's good. How could this bus pass be good if once the sound goes off? So like I said, I think we need to really work with them. And if you also, I'm also willing to volunteer my time to vote for the contract. If you need another person, if you need me, feel free to ask, to ask them. It's no problem. Because as you said, we need a fifth person, and I think we need to sign this contract before the end of the year so we can have a nice 2012. Okay?
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on any of the agenda items this morning? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and move on to consent.
Consent agenda items 4 through 23 may be taken in one motion, if the board so desires.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, we now go to your non-consent agenda items. And the first item today is item 29, which is to discuss litigation related to the fixed route service contract filed against the RTC by First Transit Incorporated with the agency's counsel. And I'll note for the record that according to Nevada Revised Statute 241.015 2B2, that the commission may close their discussion to the public on this item, if they wish to.
So I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session per 241.015 2B2. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. We're going into closed session. Okay, we're out of closed session. We'll call back to order the meeting of the Regional Transportation Commission.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Item 30 is to direct council and staff as appropriate regarding litigation related to the fixed route service contract filed against the RTC by First Transit. Staff is awaiting your direction in this matter.
I turn it over to Mr. Kaplan to summarize.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as we discussed, we currently have litigation ongoing between First Transit and the RTC, in which Veolia is also an intervener. First Transit met with the general manager and myself on Monday afternoon of this week and proposed that we resolve this matter as amicably as possible. They would agree to dismiss the lawsuit against the Regional Transportation Commission with a mutual release of all claims, both sides to bear all their own costs and attorney's fees, of which the RTC's had none, but they've had numerous. As part of it, they've requested that going forward, the RTC agree to re-procure fixed route services and split the services, as has been discussed previously by this board. That they also, as our paratransit provider, they have available, the board has available to a 2-year option period, and that they requested that the board exercise its discretion to exercise that option. They had submitted, previous to this discussion, lower rates for that 2-year period, which would, of course, be a part of that whole process. And then finally, they had asked for a reference letter or an explanation letter regarding the culmination of this whole matter, which would be something that staff and I would draft for the board's consideration and approval. So those are the items that would resolve this matter and allow the board to move forward with the fixed route procurement process.
So you're wishing direction from the board to pursue the settlement agreement?
Yes.
And all those elements and any additional agenda items directly involved would come back to the board in December?
Correct, for formal approval.
Any comments or questions from the board? Commissioner Giunchigliani.
Thank you. I think in the long run, this will probably be the best approach for the community as well as for the two businesses. It's never been a disagreement that either company is capable of being able to do this job. But the issue, in my opinion, still is that as we grew, we created a monopoly, and it's no different than whether it's trash, water, or whatever the utility, we really have to be sensitive to that part of it. And it limits our flexibility as electeds to be able to determine when you're kind of held hostage to, so to speak, by one company. And so I think that this will be a win-win for everybody. And I personally appreciate that. Was hoping we could have gotten there sooner, because there are shared contracts in other states, and that could be a model to take a look at. So I think that in the long run, that's what we'll be guided by. So.
Very good. And I would like to publicly acknowledge Mr. Kaplan, Mr. Snow, and certainly representatives from First Transit for sitting down and moving in this direction as far as driving a settlement outside of the courtroom. So it's greatly appreciated. And on that note, we will would ask for a motion as far as directing staff. Okay. Motion on the floor to direct staff to pursue the settlement agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zeb. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. We now go to item 24, and I would like to request to take item 24 and 25 together because I believe they are very closely interrelated. Item 24 is to approve and authorize the chairman to sign resolution number 291 in support of the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. The RTC is a participating member of the Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition's Regional Open Space Subcommittee, and we've been asked to approve this resolution in support of the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. And item 25 is to pursue a bicycle-friendly community designation. The RTC would like to pursue a bicycle community designation with the American League of Bicyclists. It's a very prestigious and difficult award to obtain. And these two items do go together, and I would like to just introduce the item by going to a brief discussion of the recent Viva Bike Vegas event that we had last month. And we have a video to share with the commission that helps summarize just a little bit of that event. We'll go ahead and try to show that to you at this point.
Today, this ride is about making a statement. It's a statement to all those drivers out there that the two-wheeled revolution is on its way, and we're not quite there yet, but we're making great progress in most of our streets where we have dedicated bike lanes, and we're changing the culture of driving in Las Vegas. 3, 2, 1!
This is the first time I do this. I live here for 20 years. This is the first time I like it. I'm going to do it next year too. Viva Las Vegas, Viva Bike Las Vegas.
Hard to beat last year, but I think we did it with the Las Vegas Strip. I just thought it was absolutely thrilling to be out there riding with, have the strip shut down, have all these cyclists around me, seeing the lights go by. We had the police escort all the way up to Buffalo Drive, and it just really helped to get us out of most of the valley, up into Red Rock. Boy, what a beautiful day. We couldn't have asked for a better day. The cyclists were very well cooperative, and I think this is the best supported ride in the United States with the RTC staff. This year it was an international event. We had cyclists from the United Kingdom, from Mexico, and from Canada. More than 1,700 cyclists. It was a very successful event. I'd like to thank and recognize Jackie Dennis and her staff and all the volunteers from the RTC and the community who helped make it a great event. And we're also going to go back to the slideshow here because we did have a celebrity that was riding with us. We had RTC Commissioner Deborah March, who cycled her way through the Las Vegas Strip on the 17-mile ride. This is I think, about 5:15 a.m. in the morning of October the 15th, and it was a great ride. Councilwoman, thank you very much for participating in the ride.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'd like to challenge all of our commissioners to join me next year. It's really a lot of fun, so really think about it.
I would have been there, but I put on that thing you gave us last week, and I didn't want nobody to wreck.
Providing access to healthy outdoor recreation is a very important component of what we can do, and improving the safety of our transportation system is a very important component of what we can do. Cycling is a growing hobby for many, many people, to get fit, to get exercise, to get out, and the more cyclists we have on our roads, the more accustomed the drivers are to driving with courtesy around cyclists. The more pedestrians we have out on the sidewalk and the safer environment we can provide for pedestrians, the more drivers will notice and be safer just in driving, even when they might not always be able to see a pedestrian or a cyclist. We've had a rash of pedestrian incidents recently, as I think you are all aware of. It's interesting to note the correlation between where those accidents take place and where we have complete street infrastructure. And we find that where we have the focus has been not on just designing a street or a roadway for automobiles, but the focus has been on providing infrastructure with the planning and the design and the construction for all modes of transportation, that we just have a safer environment for all of the users of the transportation system, whether they're pedestrians, whether they're bicyclists, whether they're taking transit, or whether they're in their automobiles. And we will have a report on our complete street study that we'll bring to you also next month, because I think that's appropriate and in order to talk about the progress that we've been making in our plans and how we can implement those plans in the rest of our transportation system. At this point in time, I'd like to focus on the Vegas Valley Rim Trail, and Marisha Baca from Outdoor Las Vegas, Outside Las Vegas Foundation. She's here with us, and I'd like to offer the opportunity for Marisha to come forward and to discuss her vision and her plans for the Vegas Valley Rim Trail, and then we'll talk a little bit more about cycling and how the RTC's plans can complement what this great not-for-profit organization is doing. Marisha?
Good morning. And
good morning.
Excuse me,
If I might, I just had a question. On item 25, the application for the designation, that's a grant process?
It's not a grant process. It's an application to see whether you get an award. And it's not money, but it's a recognition of a level of effort and accomplishment. And they're very competitive and difficult to get.
And when you talk about the complete streets later, are you going to bring up, or is it something that we should take a look at to help with receiving the designation, which is the conversations I know I've at least had with our Public Works Director, but I believe there will be from all of ours, about the concept of the restriping, of not putting bikes in harm's way, allowing us to place bike racks, which most of us don't have. I think Henderson has some, but many of us don't have that for those that want to ride to work or to shopping or whatever. And the 3-foot rule that was passed by the legislature, how all those can commingle. And so I just wasn't sure, I didn't want to lose that. So if it comes after Marissa does her presentation, then I'm fine.
It will come
Okay,
afterwards.
all right. Thank you,
Those
Mr.
are excellent questions. Thank you.
good morning. It's great to have you here.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much, and thank you, Jacob. And thank you very much for considering this resolution in support of the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. As many of you know, it's been a process. We're still at the conceptual stages. The Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition funded a conceptual look at this project. In 2009, the Outside Las Vegas Foundation was asked to step in and to continue moving this forward. We brought in an entity, Fest Foley Warren, that worked with stakeholders over a fairly long process to develop the name Vegas Valley Rim Trail. That process we felt was important because so many jurisdictions, agencies, and entities are involved in this project. It's really, truly a cooperative partnership effort. Our focus is on making this a public-private partnership. So the name Vegas Valley Rim Trail was arrived at actually after a survey where we worked with folks who were on the Southern Nevada Health District list, the REI list. We had over 800 respondents in this survey online, and the winner of the vote was the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. We launched that on October 1st at National Trails Day. And a large portion of the people at National Trails Day actually reported that they came because they were excited about the launch of the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. So we're thrilled about this. We're at the beginning of a road on the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. We're going to be entering into an economic analysis that we're funding through a grant from Wells Fargo. We're going to be doing that most likely in conjunction with the University of Las Vegas, and that will be complete in February. In the time being, what we're doing right now is we're coming before entities such as yourselves, the Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition, the other city councils as well. We've received a proclamation already from the Clark County Commission, and we're looking forward to really moving this project forward in a spirit of partnership and cooperation amongst the jurisdictions that are represented here, in addition to the federal agencies, and I've been working closely with them as well.
Comments or questions from the board?
Yes,
Councilwoman.
Comment. I'd like to thank Marisha and the Outside Las Vegas folks for their good work, and I think the important things that are happening here include the connectivity in the valley, creating a connectivity with all of the communities, bringing our natural resources together, but also we're seeing more focus on ecotourism, and this will certainly enhance our economic diversification and ecotourism in our community. People come here for many reasons, and one of them now will be the trail circling the valley, and I think that's so important. And I started my career as a park ranger and started up in Red Rock, and that's an important resource, but I worked as a ranger at Lake Tahoe when we established the Tahoe Rim Trail, and that Tahoe Rim Trail has really become an important resource for northern Nevada, and people come from all over the world to hike the Tahoe Rim Trail, and I see that in our future, that people will come from all over to be able to enjoy the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. So thank you so much for your good work.
Thank you. And I very much concur with your perspective on ecotourism, and it's our hope that every time a segment is either adopted into, because indeed some segments are in existence, and it's simply a matter now of adopting them into officially proclaiming them the Vegas Valley Rim Trail, or as segments are constructed, it gives our community an opportunity to really celebrate ourselves, both in the Southwest, nationally and internationally. It's one of the great untold stories in many ways, or undertold stories, I think, of Southern Nevada and of the Las Vegas Valley, that we do have these tremendous ecotourism opportunities, and we're also very much evolving to the point that Jacob was bringing up in terms of being bicycle-friendly, hopefully evolving more towards being more pedestrian-friendly, into being a really wonderful place in terms of that element and quality of life through the work done by the Regional Transportation Commission and the Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition. We have hundreds of miles of trails now for recreational and for alternative mode, and we need to get that word out increasingly.
Thank you. Commissioner Giunciliani.
Thank you. What is the process to adopt in sections of the trail?
Well, what we're doing now is, as we get these proclamations from the different cities, so that we have that official imprimatur, if you will, for the staff to then continue to work with us. We're in the process of fundraising so that we can put together the schematic alignment. What you have on this map is very much a conceptual alignment. So the next stage is working through the schematic alignment, engaging in intensive community outreach, and that's part of what I'm involved in private fundraising for. We realize at this time public funding is very difficult for things like these sort of schematic design processes, so we're working on private fundraising for that. So the next 2 years or so are going to be engaged in developing that schematic alignment, working with entities, for instance, like the City of Henderson and Clark County and City of Las Vegas and City of North Las Vegas that have some of the elements that are already along this Vegas Valley Rim Trail to officially adopt them, and then filling in the spaces, if you will, in order to create.
So have all of our land use guides then been adopted for the region that include the trim?
The Las
rim?
Vegas Open Space Plan recognized the trail as an idea at one point. The land use plans now and the various plans for the different cities will now need to officially adopt in the Vegas Valley Rim Trail as, for those existing segments, as an official additional title.
So maybe
It
we
won't-
need to pursue that as those individuals from those different entities to make sure we get
Exactly.
that portion at least on our agendas.
Exactly, and it won't be intended to replace the names of the existing trails,
Right.
but to be an overlay, such as with the Tahoe Rim Trail. There are trail segments that are part of the larger system.
Okay. And then you mentioned alternate modes. Will it eventually indicate where you're allowed to do bike, horse, mountain biking, motorized, that type of thing?
Yes, there'll likely be a central artery, if you will, where the majority of activities can take place, but there will be some areas where you obviously won't be able to have everybody on the same portion. You can't have equestrian next to mountain bikers, for
Right.
instance. So there will be some separate portions, and we've also already begun having conversations with RTC, for instance, in terms of establishing connective locations so that you can have points where somebody could perhaps put their bicycle on a bus and take that bus out to a point and then bicycle out to the Vegas Valley Rim Trail.
Okay. And ADA will be always of utmost concern of making sure the people that may be not able to ride a bike, but they're in a wheelchair or something along those lines. I mean, we're going to make sure that that's an accommodation that's there.
Indeed. Outdoor experiences for all the residents is
Okay,
important.
and then Monument Park, are we looking to make sure that hopefully we link that if we get the federal designation out there by the dinosaur portion?
We have had some conversations that should that be, should legislation be passed allowing that to move forward, that legislation perhaps include recognition that that those running the park would work with us in order to establish an appropriate alignment within their park.
And finally, could we approach Convention Authority, who really should be marketing this as an ecotourism component, about assisting with some financing for PR, mapping, having hiking sticks available to people that fly in from out of country. I was just recently in Venice and did hiking in northern Italy, but in Venice they do a Venice Nordic hike day, and the entire town, it was unbelievable, the turnout from foreigners from everywhere. There are some things that we can do in Vegas that would promote, so maybe we should approach the Convention Authority to assist us with some, we do it for golf and we do it for a variety of other things. Why would we not look at that component? So, you're on the board now. Oh, that means I have to lobby him. Oh, but without pay, I'm sorry.
We welcome the opportunity for any sort of conversation along those lines, so thank you very much.
Mr. Kemper.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Chris Kemper here on behalf of a daughter who lives in California, goes to school now in California, but who cycles hundreds of miles a week on trails like this that have been designated in California literally for years now and are enjoyed by thousands of people throughout that state. She wanted, I was going to say she asked me to speak, she instructed me to speak, to remind you that 5,000 cyclists a year are killed in the United States. And so whatever we can do to make it safer is very, very important for us as a community. I do want to tell you that she got my wife and me involved in cycling, so we ride around the neighborhood, and we don't go to a friend's house anymore, we go get our prescriptions. But we have enjoyed it very much as well, and we have noticed that there are areas where, even though you designate the 3-foot separation, cars have no appreciation for bicyclists a lot of times. So I am fulfilling my obligation to my daughter to tell you how important this is and how excited she is about the fact we're moving forward. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, and the public record will reflect that Diana's instructions were carried out.
All right, thank you. Bye.
And if I could, I don't recall the magazine, National Geographic, or it was a recognized national park magazine, something. But just a few years ago, designated Las Vegas as the place to go as far as ecotourism and the national parks and the access from the urban areas into it. So this is, we've heard about outside Las Vegas and now the Rim for a couple years, but from my perspective, it's a legacy project. It's something that I think we all, not only as RTC commissioners, but on the Southern Nevada Regional Planning Coalition, the LVCVA, if we could all make sure that our respective agencies and boards are aware of this. The only thing that will prevent this from becoming a legacy project is if somewhere along this trail we drop the ball and there's no connectivity. So I think this is wonderful, and I applaud your efforts and the efforts of those that have been involved in this for many years. This is truly something that will be forever part of Las Vegas.
Thank you.
Chairman Brown?
Councilwoman Tarkanian.
I'd just like to echo what you've said there. I think that we should commend those individuals. As I've watched this grow and seen the individuals, all those in favor of the bikes and all those in favor of the rim trails and then the inner city biking, you've all worked together. You have, as we can see on these maps, the interconnectivity of it all. I know in the ward I represent that everything we're doing, we are hearing from people concerned with the biking and the bike paths, and they're getting it so that we can connect to the rim trails. And it's a marvelous thing. When you look at it, you look at the size of the city, and you look at all the hard work that's been done by so many already. I just wanted to commend that.
Mayor Tobler. Okay.
I just quickly, I left for a minute, but it looks like a portion of this follows the River Mountain Loop Trail. Is that correct?
Yes, we do anticipate, and I have to stress that this image that you see in front of you is very much conceptual, but yes, we anticipate that the River Mountains Loop Trail, in many ways, this will be a trail that will link systems together, because there will be the River Mountains Loop Trail, there's the Red Rock opportunity, there are the 44 miles going in its own canyon, so yes.
Okay, and then as far as connectivity, I mean, Boulder City, the River Mountain Loop Trail has become very well used, but it's also connected to the Bootleg Canyon trails, and so we would want to make sure somehow there's some connectivity there. So
yes, and we're very much aware of the Bootleg Canyon opportunity. It's one of the premier mountain biking destinations, really.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. We're honored as the Outside Las Vegas Foundation to be able to work on this project. It's really building on the efforts of many over the past few years, and so we're just happy to be able to enhance and to move forward those efforts. We're lucky to have had as much work as has been done in this community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Snow?
Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity that you have given Marisha today. And speaking of connectivity, I'd like to just reference a couple of other maps that we have prepared to talk about connectivity for the different modes. And you see in the map here, it's been mentioned the River Mountain Loop Trail, which is right along this portion that's existing. We wanted to put on this map the colorful areas that we have here in the center. Those represent the various bus routes that we have. And you can see in a couple of areas out in the Henderson area, both with the 402 route and the Henderson and Downtown Express, there's direct connection to the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. Also on the western part of the valley, over in the Charleston route, you can take a bus and go all the way out to where you could connect with the Beltway, and where that connects in with the Vegas Valley Rim Trail conceptual alignment here, and then further out into Red Rock. And in the northwest part of the valley, we get very close as well as down in the Tropicana portion of the valley. So there is some connectivity there, and there have been some changes by the Federal Transit Administration to where we can use the formula funds that we have for transit to improve access to the transit system. One of the biggest challenges we have now in attracting people to our transit system is they might not live within a mile or so of the closest bus route, or the destination that they would get on the bus is more than a mile away from where the bus could take them. And so we're working with Marisha and some other partners here in the community to develop a region-wide bicycle sharing system to where various places out in the valley we would have bicycle racks. And individuals could access a bike, ride to the bus, put their bus on the bike, take the bus close to their destination, get off, and use that bike to get to their ultimate destination, whether it's work, school, shopping, or one of the various access points to our extensive bicycle route network or the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. It really would be about connecting those various modes. And to that end, I'd like to show the next map, which we have. You can see the conceptual alignment of the Vegas Valley Rim Trail, and the lines in blue are our transit routes that you've just seen, but there are a number of other lines in red that represent the existing bicycle and trail facilities in the valley. So the transit system does give us some connectivity, but when you couple that to existing bicycle routes and bicycle paths and bicycle trails, we have a lot of connectivity to the trail system and to the Vegas Valley Rim Trail. And we have put in place a plan that will allow us to expand upon that bicycle network by literally thousands of miles of trails, paths, and bicycle routes that will give us great connectivity in the north, great connectivity in the west, great connectivity in the south, and connectivity here in the east. It does get a little bit complicated over here on the northeast because we have Nellis Air Force Base, and so we can't just go and plow trails through a national strategic defense facility. But we will be working in conjunction with all the partners involved as we expand upon this process. And I looked on this map, Mayor Tobler. I was hoping to see the trails that we have all through this area for Bootleg Canyon, but we will add those to the map because they're not part of our referenced area at this time, but they need to be. And with that, the bicycle connectivity is tremendous, not just to the transit system, but to the trail system. And we brought both of these items before you today. We'd like to just share a little bit with you about the conditions of the trails. We could go back to the PowerPoint. We're going to talk a little bit about where the bicycle component comes into this, as Commissioner Gianchigliani requested. A good portion of the rim trail is unpaved, as you can see in an example of a trail here that is unpaved, but there's also a good portion that is already paved. If we can go to the next slide. This is a portion of the River Mountain Loop Trail. You can see it's very well paved as it goes up through Boulder City. Very popular and very safe way to cycle or to get out and ride or to be on horseback. And we have next week a United Kingdom journalist is going to come out and we're going to take her out on the River Mountain Loop Trail on a bicycle, and she's going to be doing articles about ecotourism here in southern Nevada. With regard to what we're doing to support our application with the League of American Cyclists, we've done a lot of work in bicycling over the last 10 years in infrastructure in cooperation with the public works departments and planning departments for the entities. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is a picture of our Bonneville Transit Center Bicycle Center. It's really a great state-of-the-art facility and the first of its kind inside the Bonneville Transit Center, where you can store your bike for extended periods of time. There's a bicycle mechanic on site. We have showers available, lockers, a great facility that's becoming a hub for cycling in the valley. We've also successfully launched an electric bicycle program that encourages government employees in the downtown area, the county, City of Las Vegas, Southern Nevada Health District, Southern Nevada Water Authority, the RTC, and anyone else who would like to be considered for that program. When we're taking short distance trips, we can ride an electric bike instead of going in our cars, really improving the air quality and reducing congestion. And we've had other cycling efforts that we've been working on. You see the green arrow and the green stripe, where we have actually worked in conjunction with the City of Las Vegas right outside the Bonneville Transit Center to designate and further highlight and delineate where the bicycle lanes actually are by the use of this green film. And we'll be adding that. It's been a successful test in every area where we can, where it's practical to do so. And that's just going to be a great safety measure for not only cyclists and pedestrians, but also for drivers. I would like to thank Susan Martinovich from the Nevada Department of Transportation. We have mentioned the River Mountain Loop Trail. She's been very much a leader in helping to get enhancement money through her department to get that facility completed. And we'd like to thank you very much, Director Martinovich. When we go to the bicycle-friendly community, normally there are awards that are given to municipalities and counties across the country for extensive efforts and education and outreach that they do to promote the safety of cycling. These awards are difficult to get. Just this year, we received an award, the RTC received an award It was a bicycle-friendly business at the silver level. It's the first award, the first designation for Nevada at any level for bicycle-friendly business. But we have the opportunity now. We just became aware that you don't necessarily have to be a municipality or a county. You can apply as a group of cities, as a region, for a bicycle-friendly community designation. There's a lot that will go into that application process. It may take us up to a year. We'd like to recommend to the board that we proceed forward with the RTC's Executive Advisory Committee, Public Works Directors, Planning Directors. We would outline all the things that we have accomplished, and Commissioner, we would include prospective projects that we would like to be able to add, such as adding bicycle racks and making dedicated bike lanes even safer by adding a lane of parked cars on the outside so that you have the sidewalk that's wide, the designated bike lane with the green film on it, then a row of parked cars, and then you have the moving automobile traffic. Those are things that would really give us a leg up on the competition to get this award.
Commissioner.
Learned what time it really is. Sorry about that. I just was having a thought as a school teacher. As a kid, I almost hit one last night on the sidewalk, no lights. I'm wondering if maybe either your committee or we could come up with somehow with the district. I know that, I think, Susan, don't we have a curriculum? We used to have a bike person at the state level. I don't know what budget cuts over the years if that went away. But they really did have a very good curriculum. But maybe what we could do is talk about sponsoring an essay contest, or, you know, what do you know about bicycling and the law, that it's a vehicle? I constantly see people on the street riding against the traffic, and it puts them further and further at risk. And we really haven't done that kind of a program in a while. Maybe there just might be some linkage we could do there, because safety ties into the pedestrian thing as well. So,
Commissioner, we have a Safe Routes to School program, and we do have a person specifically assigned for that with Bike and Ped, so we'd be happy to work with you all, with Jacob and his team and each of the county representatives to discuss what can we do, because there is some federal money. It is a very popular and very much needed set-aside program of federal funding, so that we can work on trying to address this.
that's a great idea, because I think in the Complete Streets, we did acknowledge the Safe Routes to School component, and so that needs to be part of that linkage. But we just may want to talk about how we can do a better outreach. Maybe Channel 2 and Channel 4 can do an interview with your person about what are bicycle safety records. I have not looked at the DMV exam in a long time for driving, but does it incorporate the updated 3-foot rule for drivers? You know, just things that, those are things that we probably assume are done, and it may not be. So that's just food for thought as we try to promote ourselves as a more bicycle safety designation.
Very good. And we will take items 24 and 25. Entertain a motion. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, item 26 is to approve resolution number 292, opposing the Arizona Department of Transportation's request to the Federal Highway Administration to permit tolling of the Arizona segment of Interstate 15. Now, this year, the Arizona Department of Transportation submitted a request to the Federal Highway Administration seeking approval and acceptance for one of the 3 pilot projects within the Interstate Reconstruction Rehabilitation Pilot Program. And that request concerned a proposed tolling project on the Arizona segment of Interstate 15. The Federal Highway Administration responded on September 20th of this year, stating that the Federal Highway Administration will review the proposal and will be working with the Arizona Department of Transportation staff to gain a more comprehensive understanding of the proposal. Now, the Federal Highway Administration further stated it will likely take some time before a final decision would be made. Yesterday, I heard from a representative of the Arizona Department of Transportation on this issue, expressing concern about this resolution. And she agreed to come up and meet with the RTC and any of our member entities, and there is a long way to go and an extensive process before any type of a tolling provision could be approved by the federal government. And certainly we're pleased to see that the Arizona Department of Transportation has again reached out to to us in Nevada on issues of import with regard to transportation planning. There is a concern about the condition of the bridges in the Virgin River Gorge in the Arizona portion of Interstate 15. There are at least 3 bridges that will need to be not just rehabilitated but replaced. They're very old, and it will be a very expensive undertaking. Nevertheless, the impact of tolling needs to be studied here in, not just in Nevada, but in the entire tri-state area, and that is an area of concern from the staff standpoint. And I'd like to point out that Councilman Hafen from Mesquite asked that we put this item on the agenda to discuss that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Hafen.
First of all, I thank staff for putting this on. It is a major concern in Mesquite. We're going to be the most directly impacted with the fees that are proposed. I understand the timing. It's a ways out, but sometimes if you snooze, you lose, and it is going to be a direct impact on Mesquite, and that's why I encourage this resolution. And it will impact Vegas as well. I mean, I-15 is a major corridor between a lot of the Utah cities and that, and it is a major concern for our citizens up there, and that's why I ask that the RTC support this opposition to this tolling, because it will directly impact us in Mesquite.
Comments? Councilman Ross?
Yeah, I think, Councilman, I think it's time that the Mesquite militia be called out and you conquer that corner of Arizona, and we can just take care of our own.
They're in place.
Yeah, and I think Arizona needs to think seriously about what they're doing here, because they actually have the whole Arizona Strip area, which is north of the Colorado River, and they have only 2 points of access, and they really have a responsibility to take care of those points of access. And if they don't want to, certainly I think Nevada and Utah might be willing to take over those portions of their state if they're so inclined.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, just a little bit of background is that a couple months ago, the director of Arizona approached the director of transportation of Utah and myself and mentioned that they were going to do that and how we felt about it. And I told him, I said, that's not a good thing for the state of Nevada, especially if you start tolling into Las Vegas. However, that being said, as Director Snow indicated, those bridges are in trouble. And if those bridges go down, it does affect the economies of Nevada and Mesquite and Salt Lake. You know, there's a lot of goods movement that moves up from California through Las Vegas and over to the east. And there's been talk about, well, maybe have a federal allocation to help with those bridges. But remember that the senators from Arizona have been strong opponents against any type of earmarks. And so if there was to be some of that, there may be some political issues associated with that. So what we have proposed is working with the states of Utah, Arizona, and Nevada, and the public, and RTC here in Mesquite, and St. George, I think, is in Utah, and actually sitting down, maybe a workshop on what can we do, how do we do it to address the initial construction of those, or the initial fix of those bridges, but then also subsequent long-term taking care, because there is an impact. Just information, not supporting one way or another, but just information, is that there's a lot to be discussed with the tolling, that there would need to be a tolling authority set up. Maybe it would be an opportunity that locals or some are not charged, or there's different scenarios that could be worked out. And so if you totally cut out that ability, I think that we're losing an option. There might be ways to do it, but it is an option that and somehow those bridges have to be taken care of. That is the challenge. And from what I understand, the Arizona delegation, the legislature there's nothing for Arizona to take care of them. Yes, do they have a moral mandate? It's an I-15, absolutely. And that's what our position has been, is they need to take care of the road in their state. But somehow we've got to make sure that Nevada is not affected by their lack of doing something.
But, you know, they do have and Chairman, if you don't mind, they do have an important natural resource, which is north of the Colorado River, and it's a big part of Arizona, and Arizona reaps tourism benefits from that, and the only points of access are at Page, Arizona, and at through the Narrows there. So really, they have an obligation to provide access to that part of their state by their citizens as well.
Mayor Tobler?
I was just going to say, I know because Boulder City's been involved in tolling, I mean, this would be similar to us saying we're going to toll the bypass bridge on Arizona, and it would be similar, and you can imagine the outcry Arizona would have. And one of the reasons why I think we've had an uphill battle on tolling was when we originally talked, and Susan, I don't know if you were involved at that time, but Arizona was opposed to any tolling. And this is no different. And I think for that reason, your idea, sitting down and trying to figure out other ways, is the best way to go about this. Because, I mean, it would be, you'd have states tolling each other at their entrances all over if we start down this road. So.
And I'd call to the attention that in the resolution, the MPO opposes the proposed tolling of I-15 without further studies being conducted. So I don't think the resolution is talking about a blanket opposition to the concept. It's just, I think this board is making a comment as far as we would encourage continued conversations. And Arizona is going to be critically important as far as our transportation network, the I-11 concept. So we certainly want to keep those channels of communication open, but I certainly support what's before us. I think it expresses the board and our concern for the concept, and just ask that studies be done. Commissioner.
Thank you. Yeah, the way the agenda item is written, it makes it, because I would not support the automatic opposition because I think it's premature. We don't even know what's out there, what our options are. I was thinking that if that language in the MPO said something like express reservations with regard to imposing a tolling, but at this point oppose, and then because then it gives you the flexibility. You're going to have to sit these people down. They may have an obligation, but they don't have to do anything. And so if you cut off your nose to spite your face, and as one who sometimes does that, I would argue that maybe we shouldn't in this circumstance. So I just was hoping that the resolution's intent not close off the door, not be perceived as closing off the door, to sit down and see if there are other options. I think a toll in this case will not raise enough money to replace and pay for those bridges. It may give an opportunity for the councilmen to talk to some of the Arizona folks as well, to reach out to them about if they're going to oppose earmarks. Again, they may have to take an issue with regard to safety, because then I would be talking to the trucking industry if you're going to sit down with anybody, because that is one of the main groups that actually utilizes that area more so than just the average citizen coming back and forth through there. So I would just hope that the language within the resolution is not intended to do a blanket opposition, because I think you won't have many options if you do. And so as long as you're assuring me that that's the intent, I'll support it. But the way I initially read it, it was like, I'm sorry, it's a little premature if you haven't even had a conversation with anybody.
Mr. Chairman, based on those comments and apparently the intent of the board, we can revise some of this language to reflect that, to make it more clear.
I think he needs to go back to his community and say that, you know, there are strong reservations, and we don't really support the idea of our locals having to subsidize or pick up that cost. But if there's an offering to finally sit down from Arizona, let's not stop that opportunity. So that was just my concern. So,
Councilman Haven?
Just the whereas, does that not cover that, legal count, Zev? I mean, I think we're saying that, look, folks, you know, we're opposed to this if we're gonna throw, every time we go past this place in a car, we're throwing $3 in each way. You know, let's sit down and work it out. And I can tell you that the trucking industry strongly opposes this. There's been a lot of contact made already from the mayor and the council in Mesquite to reach out to folks. And so, you know, we have done some homework and we understand, you know. But I think this whereas, I think it covers the intent of what we discussed here today. Let's bring people to the table and talk to them. But I would encourage that this resolution go forward, we still gives us the opportunity to sit down and have those studies and those conversations.
Councilman Ross.
I concur with Councilman Hafen in regards to moving forward with this resolution, but I think this also creates that bigger discussion about the economic importance of the I-15 corridor, not just only for the RTC, but for the LVCVA, for all of the components economically here in Southern Nevada. And we've got to, and I'll say this, as we've torn down our borders and worked more closely together as local jurisdictions, likewise, we have to do the same in working with California and Arizona, because it is so important to our economy that people are flowing, that commerce and goods are flowing, that this just creates a much broader discussion. But I can certainly support this agenda item the way it is.
Mr. Chairman, one final comment is that there's current opening for the Tiger 3 grants, and the states of Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and California made this bridge, those bridges, as our #1 application. There's a category where regions can get together and make application. This was submitted with all 4 states signing on that this is a priority for the I-15 corridor, so that has been taken care of in that realm.
And if there's support for the President Jobs Act, which also includes infrastructure, this might be another thing, but unfortunately there are people paralyzed over that and don't want to deal with it, but that's my editorial comment.
Editorial accepted. Well, and I think that whereas that paragraph certainly protects some of the conversation. And if we could share via public record and our conversations with ADOT, it will clarify the intent of this board. So it's not just read as the agenda item. I think there's plenty of conversation here that would bring more clarity on our position to our colleagues.
Very friendly conversation with ADOT at this point, and we look forward to continuing that.
And we appreciate ADOT keeping an eye on what the MPO in Nevada is doing. Yeah. It's very much appreciated. So we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move for we approve resolution number 292.
There's a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Item 27 is to form a subcommittee of the Commission to make recommendations on the evaluation criteria and weights for the procurement of the paratransit services contract in light of the previous direction from the Commission to go forward with a settlement agreement with First Transit on the fixed route proposal. It may be in the best interest of the Commission to table this item at this time.
That would be my motion.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner?
Thank you. Then down the road, though, we would still need as a board to come up with procurement policies and procedures for the splitting of a contract. So that will still come back to us to react to.
Correct.
Correct, and you'll also have probably at your next meeting a similar item for fixed route, so we can move forward with that as well.
Thank you.
Item number 28 is to appoint an evaluation committee to assess the performance of the general manager for the period of January 1, 2011 through December 31st, 2011. It has been the practice of this board to evaluate the performance of the general manager on an annual basis. In keeping with the board's past process, it's recommended that the board consider appointing a committee of the Commission's members to review the general manager's performance and recommended goals and objectives for 2012. The committee's recommendations will be presented to the board for consideration.
And earlier, we had appointed a similar committee for Mr. Frazier with Regional Flood. So the same committee members and also Mayor Tobler. So the committee would be made up of Councilwoman March, Commissioner June Kiliani, Mayor Tobler, and myself. Take that in the form of a motion. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, your next item is citizens' participation.
Anyone wishing to speak to the board this morning, please step forward and state your name.
Hi, my name is John Meters. I live at 7809 Rain Shower Drive, Las Vegas, 89147. I'm just here to say we need a bus on Buffalo really bad. I mean, it takes me 3 buses to get to Sahara and Rainbow, and that just does not make any sense.
John, what part of Buffalo?
Buffalo and Spring Mountain's my cross street. It takes me 3 buses to get up there, and that's where my physician is, and it just I've been calling and calling and calling and calling and calling for about a year now, and it's like nobody's given me a response back or anything on it. So
I appreciate you coming down.
That's all I
We'll
wanna
have
say.
someone from staff talk to you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and this meeting is adjourned.